needed to have a timer to make sure we was sticking to 2 minutes.
There wasn't a lot of travel.
But that's so long. You scheduled it to happen on May 13th. Okay. No, it's okay. I'm sorry.
Okay, I think we're gonna try using the microphone. Hopefully this isn't too loud. This is good, everyone? Great. All right, my name is Caroline Phillips, and I'm the founder and producer of the National Cannabis Festival. Going into our 7th year, we are the largest ticketed cannabis event in the United States and the only event of our kind that is owned and run by women of color. And the audience right now is my co-producer, Lacey, who's right over here. So I want to thank her for taking time out of this wild weekend, 2 weeks out from the festival, to join me here today. Then flanking me, I have 2 of my favorite people in the DC cannabis industry, and it's because they're people that I've really seen work hard and strategically and slowly at times, but to really build something special. So to my left, I have Corey Dunson, who is with Bouquet Papers. You all may have heard of them. Then to my right, I have Philip Hedgeman with Southeast Ratchet Cakes, which is a brand that I know is near and dear to a lot of people in the DC cannabis community and beyond. So the past hour, we just talked about some really challenging topics around the licensing process and the steps that you would need to take to get licensed and run a plant-touching business in the cannabis industry. In this hour, we're going to switch it up a little bit, and we're going to talk about ancillary businesses in the cannabis industry. And what that means is ancillary is the businesses that run alongside the plant-touching businesses. So I run an ancillary business. It's an event production company. We do not touch the plant, so I don't sell or manufacture or do anything like that with the plant. I produce events, many of which now have to do with cannabis. Corey's company does rolling papers, also not a plant-touching company, but a brand that runs right alongside some of the really popular brands or some of the popular licensed brands that you see in the city. You'll see his papers in dispensaries and head shops all over the place. And then Phil also runs an ancillary company. He runs an apparel and cannabis accessories brand. So we just wanted to kind of come here today, talk to you all about ways that you can get involved in this industry that don't necessarily require the steep and pretty intimidating overhead of getting a license, but still do require the intense dedication and passion behind your business. So we're going to start today by getting a little bit of background from my fellow speakers, and I'll tell you a little bit about myself and how we got the festival started. Then I want to really talk about some of the nuts and bolts. So we're going to be talking about where we've each derived a lot of the support that we need, whether that is through financial support or mentors. So we'll be talking about some of the grant programs that are available in the city. We'll be talking about just ways that we've strategized and come up with ways to develop capital for our businesses. We're going to talk to you all a little bit about the marketing and just the things that you need to know if you're going to try and market a company that does anything with cannabis. And then we're going to take a bunch of questions from all of you, I hope. All right. So if that sounds good, I'm going to pass the microphone to my left. And we'll get some intros going. And if in your introduction, you can also say why you started your company, that would be great.
Okay. What's up, everybody? My name is Corey. I'm the founder of Bouquet Rolling Papers. Thank you. Founded here in Washington, D.C. Myself, I'm a former athlete. I'm still an athlete, but I'm a former collegiate athlete. I played ball at the University of Georgia. I graduated from the University of Georgia. I'm from Georgia, but I've made a great home up here in the DMV area. And some of my main reasons for starting the brand are, I wanted to represent. Through doing research, I realized there was no paper owned by people of color, and one company owns the majority of the most popular brands that are out. And I knew I love papers, and when it comes to papers, it's all about culture, in my opinion. Some people grew up rolling tops. That was a whole era for them. It tells them a story, brings back memories. Some people, rolled bras in the late 2000s. So I really wanted to start a brand that I feel like could represent my people and where I come from, and just the dopeness that I know that's out there, and telling that story, and putting it on for people that I knew wanted to get in the industry but didn't have access to it. So I really big up all of my team. I have a great team, but I make sure they get the opportunities that they need to pursue the careers that they want to in the cannabis industry. So those are some of my major factors in starting this brand. And I love just hustling. I love creating things and seeing it through and watch it come into fruition. So it's a beautiful process. And I just really fall in love with the journey.
Thank you. Phil, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and why you started Southeast Cannabis?
Yeah, my name's Phil Hedgeman, aka Juan Deuce, aka Ratchet Jesus, lifelong DC resident, lifelong Southeast resident. I'm owner of my brand Southeast Ratchet Cakes, and co-owner of DC's only kind of game show, Nut Facts. Been here in DC, like I said, forever. Got some early starts here with the DC cannabis scene, following some of the guys around like DC Scrogger and some of the advocates in the city. So I got the right start early on and was sort of introduced to the scene the right way. So that's what sort of led me to building my brand.
I still remember when we first met. I first met Phil in spring, January of 2016 on H Street Northeast. I was handing out flyers for the first festival, hoping people would even let me put them in the stores. And he was in one of the stores and took one of the flyers and actually emailed me afterwards and was so supportive, just from the jump. And we've been friends ever since. So like I said, I'm Caroline, and I started the National Cannabis Festival here in DC 8 years ago. For me, when I saw cannabis legalization coming to the city, I saw all of these events coming to the city, and there were two things that bothered me about the events. First of all, I did not see anybody that looks like anybody up here or in this room at those events. They were really expensive to get into. And the second thing is I actually thought the events were not very high quality, and that really bothered me because of my background in event production. So when legalization was on the horizon for the city and folks were voting Initiative 71 into law, I started to percolate the idea for the National Cannabis Festival. And it ended up taking more than 18 months to make happen. But, we really just wanted to create an event that was accessible, approachable, and affordable for the people in our city. And that talked more than just about the green rush, but also talked about the challenges that still remain for so many of us in starting our businesses and creating sustainable models. So that's a little bit about my background on the festival. Part of why I started it, I think I'm learning, is because of people like the guys sitting up here with me today. It's been really cool over the past 7 years, not just to grow the festival, but to see everybody's businesses like grow together. All right, so we're gonna jump in. Starting a business, we all have pretty wild stories. I gave you guys a little bit of mine, but it was literally on my couch in my apartment. I'm an early riser, so it was in the hours before I'd get up for work. I would sit there on my computer working on this like Squarespace website and wondering if I was gonna lose my job for starting a cannabis event. None of that's very easy, but I'd really like to talk to both of you a little bit about how you got started and what inspired you to keep going. And then the second part of the question is gonna be, when did you know you were ready to take your first big step, and what was that big step? Okay, you're gonna go first.
Well, like I stated before, started, met DC Scrogger, around the same time when I met Caroline, and he was doing the free treat Friday, as he said, if y'all were here earlier, he was talking about that. So, Scrogger, like you said, he's gonna burn some stuff in your head if you're around him. And it was one of those things. I think actually the first thing we did was we walked from Congress Park Southeast up to 7B police station, passing out free duties, just passing them out, checking IDs, making sure people was 21, and we were passing them out. So throughout this time, while he was doing these free treat Fridays and giveaways, I'm a capitalist, so the whole time, I'm with him, I'm like, well, I love this side. But also, I'm trying to figure out where's the money going to start at, because he was also preaching that to me. He's like, look, the big boys are coming. They're going to eat this city alive. So me thinking, I'm like, well, I got to figure out where I'm going to fit in that with this, because I love cannabis and I sort of want to be around, and be around in the scene. I've always hustled in DC far as I washed windows on Susan and Stanton Road, took out trash, I've sold tennis shoes, clothes all around the city. And from that, I just decided, let me figure out what problem I could solve. And the problem I figured I could solve was everyone was carrying around in cannabis. You either got it in your purse, you got it in your pocket, or something on your materials. It's normally going to start reeking. Someone's going to smell it. So I came up with the idea of branding these lunch boxes, and started handing them out to people and doing different things, and wanted to get them in different people's hands. And it was just a way for people to carry around their cannabis. None of the gifting stuff with it. I made sure I kept all that separate. I was like, everybody asked me, what comes in the box? What comes in the box? Nothing comes in the box. It's just a box right now. I've been at DC my whole life. Like, if you want something, ask someone for it, But other than that, it was just a way for me to get started. And the second part was, what keeps me going? Thank you. What keeps me going is, I'd say, just being influenced by a lot of the people who were on this panel earlier. I mean, that was a hard crowd to follow, the people who were up on this panel. So I look at a lot of them from afar. I get to speak to a lot of them directly. And what keeps me going is just them every day knowing what they know. And I tell people every time, I'm not an advocate, I'm a foot soldier. So I'm a voice. Anytime you need me, I'm there for you. So it's like that type of stuff that keeps me going. I know there's people out here fighting, so I got their back. They always need somebody who's gonna have their back.
So the first question is,
How did you get this started? Where were you? What did that look like?
The start of it was I was already in a different business. So I'm a personal trainer, so I was trying to get off some product like protein powders and green smoothie food powders and all that. And I always knew you needed a product to go with your service. So I was always in the product mindset. And then one day the idea just hit me. I had a raw, I had some flour, I was rolling it up, I was high, and I was like, damn, this is a bouquet. Damn, that's a fire ass name. Damn, I think the people, the culture would like, they would get it if I put it out there right. And I wanted something that was different than what the market already had. I wanted something that gave me that Louis touch, that Gucci feel, like something that's like high end. Because I think your tree should be that way too. Your flower should be grown to perfection. Like that's how I like to smoke. So, and the name is just like it changes how you think about the cannabis plant, because now we're talking about our cannabis plant being a flower and we're treating it that way. So that's how the name, the idea came first, and then the hustle was already there. I just put the hustle to the idea. And then, I had to do my Google searches. I had to trademark. I had to find the hemp stock that I wanted to use for my papers that I would appreciate with my flowers. I had to build a team. And then, honestly, what keeps me going is just the feedback from the community, like people just showing love randomly in the DMs or emails and all. I'm like, damn, that's hard. Like when you put your energy out there and people can respect that and like take the time and their energy to let you know, like, yo, this is dope what you're doing, or I really love your product. And like sometimes like to see other people that have somebody tell them about a product that I didn't even tell them. They got that from somewhere else, and it's a full circle moment. I'm like, I'm too far in now. I can't stop. So
Can't stop.
Definitely understand a lot of that. I think that we hear a lot about great ideas, and it's the nuts and bolts of how do you take a great idea and actually make it into a real product or a real experience for people. Now, there's business and then there's cannabis business, right? So operating a business is difficult. Operating a cannabis business is complicated, and I think that's putting it nicely, even just an ancillary business. And there are a lot of layers to that and reasons why. I think the first reason is there is still a lot of kind of tongue-in-cheek approach when people talk about the cannabis industry. Oh, you own a cannabis dispensary. You must get high all the time. Or, oh, you run a rolling papers brand. And then they're probably surprised when they find out you're a personal trainer also. I think that we all kind of deal with a lot of that, people looking at us and not realizing that we're also real business people. A lot of people are at this conference because we're talking about music industry in DC and that creative space. Not everybody can be a performer or an artist manager. There is a person out there that was savvy enough to think, I'm going to start an artist transportation company. And that's where they're making their money in the music industry. There is a person out there that was savvy enough to think, I'm going to do artist catering. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm saying that because when you're thinking about the cannabis industry, think about what you really love and do really well. And then think about how you can approach and find your little space or big space in this industry. I cannot grow cannabis to save my life, or plants in general. So I appreciate that people like DC Scrogger exist. I could not run a retail space like Hope runs. I just like the nuts and bolts and the business behind the plant, I think would be something that would overwhelm me. It's just not my skill set. But what I can do is figure out event logistics. And I think we each had that thing that we could figure out. So in all of the figuring out, while maybe not as much initial money, to start a business, you still need capital. Whether it's first jumping onto LegalZoom to pay the $400 some to get your LLC, which is a good first step, or paying an attorney for a couple of hours to just look over some contracts for you. There are these starting costs. Beyond that, for something like a festival, there are other obvious starting costs, like we need fences, and we're gonna need some insurance for this thing. I'd love for you both to talk a little bit, you don't have to give numbers, but like what were some of the starting costs that you had to deal with when you were starting your brand? And how did you approach figuring out how to get the funding to get started? Do you want to start? I'll go last. Okay.
So for my experience and what I was doing, first things first, like she said, labels don't have to start an LLC, had to get, I believed in my ideas, so I had to get everything trademarked, properly registered. And then from there, it was just, I had to trial and error, get product. Actually my first run of Bouquet Papers, the person I was working with, kind of scammed me out of my initial money that I was using to start. So I was like, damn, this is more difficult than on the other side, that's what they're doing over here. But I would say it took about like $10,000 to get everything off the ground. And what was your second question about?
My second question, well, I know earlier I said I wanted to know when you knew what your first big step was gonna be and how you knew you were ready for that.
Yeah. So the first big step was putting money down and getting enough product. But I feel like every level that Bouquet gets to, there's a whole nother step. Like I would say recently, buying more products so that I can suffice the need for a distributor. When we talking product, which I feel like is almost really similar to the music business, you have a product, but then you gonna need to find somebody else who can get your product in the other places that you can't necessarily get to. They already have a pipeline and connections to other stores and stuff like that. But you have to have done the work before then to even have those conversations with them. And so just recently, it was like, can we order in enough products that we can suffice their needs for all of the stores that they distribute to? And luckily enough, we can always put in the work, and we were prepared when that situation came about. But yeah, I think when I knew I was really ready was when I left the gym that I was at, so I could have more time to double down into Bouquet. I know I'm a person that I just need enough time to figure out and learn the situation. And so I've been able to do that for about 2 years now. And time is everything when it comes to putting energy into your business. So the first big step was leaving that 9 to 5.
And I just want to pause there because I do think that is something unique that cannabis business owners go through. There's a point where you're putting enough energy into your business where I don't know if maybe you're worried the people that you currently work for will find out, or maybe the time it's just not a sustainable thing to be doing both. I know for me personally, time-wise, I couldn't keep my other job, and I also knew I would definitely lose my other job when they found out what I was working on. So I had this literally 3-month conversation with my whole family about how I was leaving that had benefits, and they paid me every 2 weeks to do this thing. It took them a little while to understand that, but I think that's something that we've all experienced up here. Now, Phil, I know that you definitely went through that experience. So if you could talk about what it was like when you hit the point with your brand that you said that you had to leave your full-time job. And then you have a very interesting kind of road to funding where I know it's a combination of initial personal funds to start, but then you really started to leverage a lot of the grant programs in the city that I think people who work with ancillary cannabis businesses don't know are actually accessible to us. So can you tell people about that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, first, to piggyback off the job situations, I worked 20 years for the DC government, various jobs, driving, admin a little bit. Admin on the admin side. But I challenged DC on the ambiguous wording they had for medical patients. They had a lot of just wording that basically if you were a medical patient at DC and had a government job at the time, they were supposed to offer you a new job. I challenged that with the ACLU, and they basically rewrote some stuff and a whole bunch of other stuff went on. But from there, the best way to fund, I found was to fund my business was bootstrapping through my job. Put all your own money up is different feeling, and from there, I left my job 2020 right before the pandemic. So it was one of those things where I was like, did I make the right, decision? But I did sort of hit a plateau of where I wasn't even coming to work because I was more focused on, what I was doing for my business and, helping others and just, experiencing what was going on that side. From there, that year, I applied for an EIDL loan because I already had, my business structured and everything in DC and registered. Thanks to Alex Garage Starlight Management, he helped me set up my business. DC Scrogger and a couple of others, Tory and Bishop, they gave me the inspiration of, look, start a business. They were really putting in my head, start a business right now. From there, like I said, got the EIDL loans, something small, but it was something that kept me afloat at the time. And from there, I also leveraged a couple of the DC incubators, 202 Creates, which is a incubator for creatives. They help you with content, mentors, show you how to get funding. Also utilize another business spot up in Skyline neighborhood up in here, Southeast, called Life Assets. And they help you with micro business loans and business training. So I just pretty much just kept grinding, kept my wheels turning and figuring this out because I didn't go to nobody's school, colleges or anything, sort of school of hard knocks when we graduated from high school, luckily, but everything else was self-taught. And it was a hell of a ride, and it still is a hell of a journey. One of the main things that they had to learn was you got to keep learning.
How do you have your ear to the streets for all the resources? I feel like you reeled off a couple different resources. How you?
I'd say the first thing was because I was in district government, so it was sort of I knew where to go and where everything was happening at. And the other thing was just simple, like you said, Google.
Yeah.
I mean, you Google and you go on DC.gov. What is it? The DC business DCRA basically. Yeah, and then DC business side, you'll see everything. They'll send you emails weekly about different seminars and different programs and different stuff that just comes up. I mean, DC has so much stuff, man. People would really be surprised. Well, I'm surprised when people say, they couldn't do this or they couldn't do this. I was like, well, there's a lot of resources in DC, a lot of resources to help you, especially as a small business.
Saying this, it makes me really happy. I screenshot this earlier, but if you go to obviously.dc.com, they have a list of the 2023 fiscal year grants. And when you look at that list, it's really exciting because if you look down at DSLBD, which works with all of our small businesses in the city, there's a Cannabis Assistant Grant that is going to be happening, which is really exciting. But there are other things in here, the Equity Impact Enterprise Awards. There's a Dream Pitch. There's retail grants. There are all kinds of grants that you can apply for small and medium business growth funds. And beyond that, they also have resources that can provide you with technical assistance and other things to help you develop your business acumen so you know how to use all of these resources to their full potential. For me, when I started the festival, I put the money that I had in my bank account down with Events DC to put my deposit in. And then things were real and I was like, wow, that was real. I better raise some money. Shockingly, if you don't have any profile in an industry, it's really hard to convince people to give you any money. Also, if your events never happened, they're like, why would I give you any money? So I didn't raise much in sponsorship, but there are a bunch of local small business owners in the city that loaned me a bit of cash. I did an Indiegogo that at first went nowhere, but when I did something that I don't normally do, which is post online and kind of complain about the fact that the Indiegogo was going nowhere, suddenly people started sharing it and we got about $25,000 out of that. But when planning the first festival, I think if I really understood the economics of the festival, I wouldn't have been able to get through it. And I think there are a lot of small business owners that can say that if I'd known what this was going to take going in, I don't know if I could would have even had the bravery to start. I know that's really true for a lot of cannabis business owners, licensed, unregulated, or ancillary. But it was sort of I would raise a bit of money, be able to do these things for the festival, then kind of kick the ball down the field and catch up, get enough money, be able to do the next thing I needed to do. So that's to say that I don't know that I had a really clear vision going in on how I was gonna get the money for the first one. I just knew I was, and I couldn't not, because I'd quit my job. Yeah, I was like, this has to work. This is gonna be really bad if it doesn't. So then once, something I do wanna talk about, because I know it also impacted all of our brands, the pandemic, and it impacts your brands in weird, different ways. For me, I run a live events business. Everything got shut down a month before the 2020 festival. You know, anything about music, artist stuff, event planning, there's a really good chance you probably paid all of your deposits with 30 days out because your contracts say you've had to. So we got shut down, fully extended in 2020. And immediately it was really tough. We laid off our whole staff. We lost our office. And we remained that way for 18 months, just fingers crossed that we'll be able to gather things together to come back. So that was a really big challenging moment for me that had nothing to do with cannabis. But the one thing it did have to do with cannabis was there were a lot of federal programs that popped up around that time. And then DC also had some programs that popped up at that time. And I'll say that I could not be happier to say that I run a business in Washington, DC, when the Bridge Fund grant popped up, because it was the only assistance money we were able to get during the pandemic. And it's the only assistance money that helped us turn around and restart the festival in a really hot August of 2020. So I can't say for sure, but the Save Our Stages grant that was given to venues and festivals and businesses around the country, specifically for performing arts and artists, we were denied. We appealed. We did all of the things. We have impeccable paperwork because I have to, but we were still denied again and again. So I can say that was a big challenging moment for me that had nothing to do with the fact that I'm a cannabis brand, but it really did impact my brand. And it's also because of these guys here and people in this room that were able to be bringing the festival back again this year. And I think something that was really big for us this year is that we did get a sponsorship from the city through DSLBD, through the Washington DC Economic Partnership to help us with some of the money that we need to put on the event this year. So, I think that what we've heard from everybody here is, you need the grit and perseverance to get there. And also, working the steps, because when people recognize your business and they know that you've been using the tools, you've been working really hard. When Phil goes to apply for another grant, somebody in that office is like, I remember that guy, I remember that name. So use the resources that we have. All right, so brand specific stuff, marketing, because I know that we're running out of time. So we're gonna do a quick 10 minutes on marketing and go to questions.
Okay.
All right, we run businesses where at any minute we can have the rug pulled out from under us and lose all of our social media, which for so many of us is how we run our companies. Tell me all about the fear you live with every day and how you work around that for your brand.
Yeah. So first off, I believe that you should meet people face to face first, make that interaction, and then have them catch up with you on the back end on social media. I never try to engage with any people through social media first. I always like to have that face to face connection with everybody. With us, it's hard to pay for sponsored ads on IG or things like that. So we really try to have the ingenuity to find hey, where's our market at? Who's shopping with us, and how can we find influencers in those different places, and then doing collaborative share posts with them so that we're sharing audiences with each other without us having to pay for social media ads. Also, too, our name is Bouquet, so playing into our marketing, leaning into our brand, let's use flowers. We can use that to hint hey, this is about cannabis, but we can just say we could put some flowers in the paper, people know what we're talking about. So it's just really having the ingenuity and the artistic flexibility to say what are y'all giving us, and then how can we work a way around it to get what we need in terms of marketing. There's always a way. You just got to really think who you know and think about what's the best method to doing that. So that's kind of been our method. Has just been really collaborating with different brands, different influencers, and then again just tying in and doubling down on what our brand is: Bouquet Flowers.
Very smart. Now, have you ever been had a page shut down or gotten hit with those scary emails and the red flags where you're afraid to post for a couple of days?
Yeah. We actually, our page did get taken away from us, but luckily, again, relationships. My sister knew somebody. She works in entertainment. She happened to know somebody that worked at over at IG. She said, you know, I don't know what she did, but after a week, the page came back to us. She knew somebody in the office that ran like the getting your page back up, and they would hire people to help us. Relationships.
Everyone's gonna be calling you now to know if you need to talk to your sisters, right?
I didn't do it.
So Phil, how do you work around all of that? I know that you use, I mean, you've really taken off like using TikTok and all that, but how do you work around not talking about what goes in the stash box?
Well, I know personally, I'm a little more creative with the marketing. I'm in your face. Has anybody who's seen my page? I'm on TikTok dancing, rapping, doing all types of funny skits and stuff like that. What I found out was through Blunt Facts, I was able to reach a lot of people. That was a Tanner game show that I introduced to DC. And I go around, whether it was word on the street or whether it was with a personality, I'd come up to you, ask you 3 questions about cannabis. If you could answer 2 out of the 3 questions, then you win a prize, which normally would be my lunchbox or something that I could sort of promo. So I was thinking of real creative ways of how to really get in front of people constantly and use social media, because I know everyone's on social media. So I figure, hey, let me stay in front of these people as much as possible. And I'd also sort of make sure I advertise or shout out, you know, other people in the process, which made it big also because it was sort of like a collaborative effort. If I did something funny or something good that they liked, they definitely would share the video or, you know, share Blunt Facts video if they were on it personally themselves.
Have you gotten flagged or shut down? I know you've gone to Facebook jail a lot.
Yeah.
That just might be because you get a little fresh on the internet.
Yeah, Facebook, I can't post anything on, like, I can't even post the word treat. If I write the word treat on Facebook, I'll get flagged. So I think their algorithm, their meta, or whatever you call it, they really had me down. Instagram, my main page doesn't grow as much, as fast. So I guess was there like a shadow ban or something, because I know like I said, I'm constantly following and engaging and doing all the right things, but my numbers, I got up to about 7,000-8,000 followers, and it just halted, just really doesn't move anymore. But like I said, I just utilize what I got and try to go about it. But yeah, as far as flagging, yeah, I've been flagged plenty of times.
I definitely live in fear of the social media powers that be. I run a business that moves, you know, tickets through social media. It's hard for us to place ads in other places. So we are very careful, very, very careful with the festival account. We work with an ad manager at, you know, Facebook and at Instagram. So before we post anything, we run it by them to make sure it's good. And still we get things flagged and taken down. We do not get organic reach, which I think you guys both know all about. Our page is not gonna get shared. If you type in National Cannabis Festival in the search, it's probably not gonna pop up. You have to like click search, then you have to go click accounts, and then you might find it.
I tried to tag y'all. It's not popping up.
You know, so because of that, one big part of my budget is I have to dump money into their ads. Otherwise we go nowhere, and we still will kind of get like shut down on those ads after a little while. So I mean, that's something that you really do need to think about when you're starting a brand that goes alongside the cannabis industry. First of all, we all told you you're gonna need some capital no matter what, because just because you have a cannabis leaf on your products, like you still need a business license. You're still gonna need your tax ID. Beyond that, you need to think about the marketing. How are you gonna get out there? Do you have some money you can put behind that? Are you gonna do collaborations? That's something we do. We've done collaborations with Bouquet. We have 2 right now, actually, the High Rollers competition at the festival. And also, we will be setting out to run 4.2 miles at 8:40 in the morning, which is 420 times 2 on the morning of 420. It's gonna be some serious stuff. So if you wanna see some like Olympic athlete performance, come and check that out. We've done so much with Phil over the years, I like can't even really capture all of it, like all kinds of streams during the scary days of the pandemic. But yeah, so we rely on collaboration, we rely on the grace of our community, and we rely on the social media powers that be not clamping down on us one day and saying that we can't share information about our brand with the world. So, okay, this has been lovely. No, I want to make sure that we do leave time for questions. If anybody does have questions, we would like to answer some of your questions. So ask away or don't, and then you guys can all be outside by 4:20, which might be the focus for some of us. That's right. All right, do you guys have anything that you would like to say?
Anybody that's looking to do anything in business, I say the biggest thing, man, just stay consistent and start. Don't hesitate. Come up with a plan. Put that plan into action. Doors are going to start to open up. You'll get feedback. You'll learn from that feedback, and then you'll continue to grow. So don't hesitate on anything. Move on an instinct that you have, and just give yourself enough time to learn and master whatever you're doing. If you truly love it and you believe in it, that's.
You also said something about knowing your why the other day.
Yeah, know your why. I feel like when you come to a hurdle, your why will help you figure out what's the next move. A lot of people have questions. I'm like, what's my move? Well, what is your why? Based on your why, you start to ask yourself more questions, and then your move will be kind of given to you. So again, for us, it's like we want to put on for the culture. We want to put on for people. So that lets us know what events we need to be at. That lets us know who we need to collaborate with. That lets us know the places that we need to be at. So understanding your why is going. It's like your GPS. It gives you direction when you're seeking it.
I love that. And then Phil, you said something that I thought was really important earlier. You said that you identified a problem when you were thinking about your brand and why you were starting it, and that you wanted your brand to provide a solution. So can you just talk about problems, solutions, and all of that good stuff?
I guess the main thing is, like you were saying, if you know your why, and that's part of your problem and solution answer right there. Because if you know your why, then 9 times out of 10 you're trying to help a problem, or you're trying to solve a problem. I guess the hardest thing is coming up with the solution that could be comfortable sometime, or maybe just developing your solution over and over time. I had more plans for this lunchbox. As you see, it's just a lunchbox. I made it kind of more with everything else, with my pitch, with my, telling people, with being in everybody's face, where everybody just thought it was way more than a lunchbox. But I'm going to develop more. Actually was talking to Meister the other day. And he was, we're going to get on the phone and talk some things about how he could help me develop. Another thing is, I think that's key, is balance. You gotta have some balance between your business, your regular life, and your health, everything. It all has to have some type of balance. That's one thing I learned through this journey. I was head first into all this for a long time, and I went to get my real estate license like 2 years ago. So I'm a licensed DC realtor, but the training and everything you have to do as a realtor every day, it took a lot away from this business for a while. So I had to figure out through that time of how to get this back into my life. So the balance is everything. I have 2 teenage daughters. Like I said, it's a lot. My own health, it's a lot. So that's the main thing I'd say to any entrepreneur. Make sure you find that balance. The best thing you'll learn early is blocking off time. Once you learn to block off the time in, that's it. Don't worry about it until that time come back around for that, for whatever that is that you have to do.
Can we also just say that Phil might be the master marketer? Not only is he decked from head to toe in his merch, he has put that lunchbox up no less than 10 times. And he just told you that he is a real estate agent, so if anybody's looking, he can provide you with all of those things at once.
I got continuing education in marijuana implications.
Facts.
So if you want to know a little bit about, like they was elaborating on how these leaseholders about to get hit, I can talk to you a little bit more about it.
This is true. He does like some really good TikToks that break down some things on his various pages. So I want to thank Made in the DMV for holding MadeCon. This is a really special event. The city needs a lot more free programming that provides this kind of content. So I think this is a really great opportunity for us to come out and talk to everybody, but also to meet a lot of great people here. I'd like to thank Marijuana Matters for working so hard to pull all this together. They really shepherded and herded a lot of us together so that we'd be able to do this, and the speakers in the panel prior for helping kind of set the landscape so that we could talk about the ancillary businesses. I'm now going to go for just a shameless pitch. The National Cannabis Festival is 2 weeks from today. We're our face painting what's left of it. But please come out. Bouquet Papers will be there doing the High Rollers competition. Blunt Facts will be there doing Blunt Facts, also with some of the Southeast Ratchet Cakes apparel and merch. I will be there running around all day, but you know, if you come, I'll wave and say hi. But thank you all so much for listening in, and don't be scared if you are passionate about starting a business in this industry. It doesn't have to be plant touching. It just has to be something that means a lot to you. So thank you guys so much.
Can I ask you a question?
Oh my goodness, I just skipped the questions.
No.
Okay, no, go for it. Okay.
But first of all, again, I want to say thank you to Marijuana Matters. Thank you for you guys for being here. I've been coming to MadeCon for a while. I'm still have an order for deportation, but I want to thank you because that empowerment has led me now to participate part of the #1 Spanish-speaking radio station in the DMV, and also to have an open mic. And now that, talking about education and talking about how to get this to the Latino community, how to actually create that inclusion and that diversity. So honestly, my goal was to come here today to connect with everybody because we have that big platform for the Latino community, and we want to bring the education over, in English and Spanish. And we would love to make sure that we have you all on the radio. And also one of the biggest things you wanted to be the first Latino radio station to broadcast and cover the National Cannabis Fest.
That would be amazing.
And have the 420 hour. And I already spoke to my bosses about this whole thing. I came here shaking because I would not imagine that I'll be in this position a year ago when I came to this conference. So
That would be
an
wonderful.
open mic for all of us, and everybody wants to be, we have the #1 radio show in the morning, in the evening, and everybody loves the National Cannabis Fest. Everybody in the office knows the National Cannabis Fest. And I am super happy that for the small competition or for what you have for artists, I was able to tag all amazing Latino artists that need more representation, and you guys are gonna have Cumbia Heights, and we would love to be there and just power commercials and do everything for the National Cannabis Fest on us.
You don't have to twist my arm. That would be such an honor. Funny story is during the pandemic, I set out to make our entire website, or like a good amount of the content, Spanish and English content. It was a bit more of a project than I'd imagined undertaking, but I would definitely love to talk to you about that. That would be really wonderful. And we're so excited to have Cumbia Heights this year. It's just really, really great part of the afternoon. Thank you. Yes. Oh, wait, so did I screw this up? Okay, sorry. I totally tried to close the panel and there were questions.
Are you guys ever gonna bring back I know you had an edible competition before, last year, 2 years ago?
So last year we had a hemp edibles category. And it was for DC and Virginia because those are the two places that had home grow. So starting this July 1st, Maryland will have home grow, so we'll start including Maryland. The reason we backed off the infused, the edibles this year, is because of the law changes in Virginia. They started to do some really strange things with what they were saying was okay with hemp. And we really didn't want to put any participant in the competition in a position where they could be running afoul of Virginia state law. I don't know if you heard about this. There was this whole thing about Delta 8 and really starting to crack down on people. And, the festival I think is a good place for people to learn about laws and meet advocacy groups, but we aren't lawyers or legislators. So we were just afraid of doing that again this year until there's more clarity in Virginia. But my hope is that next year we'll be able to include Maryland, have more clarity in Virginia and DC, and bring all of those categories back. And then maybe in a couple of years, once regulations are clear in DC, or once we have, blanket federal descheduling, decriminalization, that, we'll be able to do this competition more easily. Must be funding in California where we have a whole coastline of state to get samples from and have people compete without having to cross state lines. All right. I think
Okay, I just wanted to quickly ask, considering what's happening in DC and Maryland, like what is your advice for someone that is looking to take advantage of this opportunity right now? And how are you guys preparing for new medical markets in DC and adult use in Maryland?
I feel like things are about to really blow up for both of them with all the places their products can be.
Just doing more pop-ups and being more visible. I feel like just being on that circuit, you're gonna get more opportunities, you'll meet more people, and then more people, once somebody might see you at one store's pop-up in the dispensary, and say, hey, can you come do that over at our store? We would love to have your products, yada, yada, yada. So but again, the thing for us is just having the volume to be able to handle all that. The advice I would give, again, is just figure out what your move is and make that. For me, I didn't have the resources to have a dispensary to do the paperwork and all that like I was talking on the last panel, but what I did have was the hustle and I think a good product and brand name. So figure out what the cards that you have in your hand that you can do, and then just move on it, because there is opportunities being open right now with things starting to open up. So just be active. That'll be my biggest thing.
And just to clarify, when you're talking about pop-ups at dispensaries, it's sort of like when you walk into a wine store or a liquor store, and they have like that tasting table, so it would be you all with your like products out.
Yeah, so we just left a situation like that yesterday, and our biggest thing is we're already actually in the store, but we wanted people to make sure that they actually had the chance to try the product. So we will bring people over, we'll ask them a couple questions, and, depending on that and what they like, we would steer them towards a product that we were giving away for a sample. But, just having that one-on-one interaction, talking to them in person, and then having them try the sample and then come back and know that they can get it from the store. Like, oh, I tried it. I see the person who owns this brand. I see the brand on the shelf. I liked it. I can go support. And it's actually funny because at that same store, we met some people who we met previously at the previous pop-up at that store. And it's like, we love your products, And so it's cool to see people kind of come back and, like, we tried it. We vouch for it every time we see it. Now we're going to shop with y'all.
Very well. And Phil, how about for you? Maryland, things are happening.
I'm sort of staying the course with my ancillary brand, but I think I don't know how you say it. I'm sort of one, I don't stay sort of in one place. So I know I'm going to be thinking about something else soon, whether it's redeveloping this brand. Like I said, I know I'm doing more, I want to do more with this, but also I have some more ideas coming up with as everything changes. That's what type of person I am. As everything changes, I try to stay 5 steps ahead, as they say, 5 moves ahead, but with everything, the way it's looking, I have some buddies I know they're going to be going for some licensing. I'd like to probably be involved, maybe just on the investor side, having a couple, like you said, percentages involved in one of the new businesses or medical licenses coming up in DC. But it's a constant changing environment, and I'm a constant changing person. So I know for sure I'd like to help some of these businesses find some retail locations with my license. I've been out there pitching that. So if you're looking for a spot in DC, come holler at me.
Or if you have a product market, give it to Phil and he will get it out there by the end of the day for you.
I'm gonna pitch my yeah.
And then for me with the festival, with the laws becoming slightly more uniform, sort of, between DC, Maryland, and Virginia, it creates a safer environment for our attendees. We're not trying to communicate this patchwork of laws to people coming from one state, and then you're coming from another. Either way, you can't take things across state lines, but it is easier to communicate the rules to people who live in states that already have rules. How about that? And then, things like we were just talking about the National Cannabis Championship, our grow competition, becomes simpler as, again, we have more home grow regionally. There's a lot of driving involved right now, a lot of having to meet people. You have to come and meet us in Virginia to pick up your samples, so that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to a day when operations can be a bit simpler and we don't have to worry about running afoul of federal law by crossing the Key Bridge. All right. Cannabis brands, everybody. Let's do this again sometime.
And just want to remind, if you haven't signed in, please do this so we can stay in touch collectively, and I'll refresh you.
Oh, what's up? I know you.